Going live. Going live. We are going live. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right.
Ready.
Joanna said she's ready. That means I guess we're ready. Hope you're ready. It's Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that means...
Why am I sitting like way far back?
I don't know why you're sitting way back there. Anyway, I was in the middle of what it means. It means welcome. Welcome to the Prime Time Aquatics live stream. Thank you for being here. And as always, because you're here, because you're part of our awesome group, you're the best people on the face of the earth. Bar none.
Yay.
The best people on the face of the earth are here right now. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So today we don't have a special topic planned because, well, we just don't this week. I guess it's partly because we've got all the stuff coming up and we've been a little busy lately. We'll talk more about that in a little while. But want to make some announcements, a few things going on before we get into all your questions. And I've seen some good ones already. So I just kind of real quick, I was scrolling through the live stream chat and I saw some questions that I think are going to be very fun to answer. So a couple things. One, video situation this week. On Monday, we featured Geophagus altifrons. I did a species profile. That was Monday, right? Wasn't it Monday? I think it was Monday.
No, orange fish was Monday.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
I'm
Geophagus
so
altifrons was last
Wednesday.
Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Monday was the orange fish. So
yeah, that was cool.
we were actually talking about that in a live stream one time, and a couple people said, hey, why don't you do videos based on color of the fish? So we said, cool. Let's start out with orange. No real reason why. I don't think it's your favorite color, right?
Well, in the aquarium, it would be one of my favorites because if you know anything about the color wheel, it's on the opposite side of green. So if you have a planted tank, orange is going to really pop in your tank.
Yeah. So we did an stocking ideas for orange fish. Today, you did a species profile on a plant profile, if you will, on a plant I didn't even know we had. Mm-hmm. And so what is the thing that you did today?
Well, it's actually right behind us. Can you see it? Here, wait.
Well, I'm sure we can.
Wait. Oh, Mary Page is here before we
Mary
forget.
Page, welcome.
Hi,
Welcome
Mary
back.
Page.
I know your summer's been crazy. But anyway, it's back there. So check out the video. And what was the name of the plant?
Umbulia.
Umbulia. Yeah.
Technically dwarf umbulia. Some people call it umbulus. But it's a great plant. If you like hornwort, you're probably going to like this one, except you can plant this one. And I like just clipping off the ends because they look like little snowflakes, just to me.
It's pretty cool. So again, it was a plant I didn't even realize we had. I don't know if I didn't look in those tanks very closely and maybe just glance like, oh, there's some hornwort in there. But it is, you're right, it is different. It's different enough to talk about for sure. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow we have our members only video, and you're going to see that we picked up quite a lot of new fish at the GCCA Rare Fish Auction last week. Yeah, we did some things. I am really excited about some of these fish, and as you might expect from a rare fish auction, some of these are not very common. But don't worry, for everybody, on Friday I'm going to show one of those rare fish that we got and the tank that they're going to be going in, so that will be available for everyone. And then Saturday you'll have something cool coming out on the small scape.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So we've got obviously a lot going on over the next month or so, because we've got, I guess, the talk around town right now is Aquachella, Chicago, which is about 20-25 minutes away from us. So we're going to be there Saturday and Sunday all day long. Hope you are going. If you are still contemplating on whether or not you want to go, highly recommend it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I would also recommend consider doing the early bird or the VIP tickets. The VIP tickets are really great because you get in both days and you get a t-shirt and you get in earlier, and then you get to do the meet and greet with everybody that's going to be there.
Yep.
And
cool.
Kind of beat the crowd a little bit. So the schedule for Saturday is a little bit different than what they've done in the past. So Saturday is the VIPs. They get in at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. And then 11 o'clock is the early bird. Mm-hmm. They're strolling on in. And then the general admission is 1 o'clock. And the event is open until 7. So, and there's going to be speakers all day and scape offs and all kinds of stuff, tons of vendors, tons of things to do. Now, Sunday's hours are a little bit different because Sunday, the VIPs still get in at 10. but they've moved up. The early birds come in at 10:30, general admission at noon, but then the event closes at 5, so it closes a little bit earlier. Sunday, I will be doing my little thing, my presentation, my talk, if you will, at noon on Sunday. So right when everybody's piling in, hopefully they can just pile right on in and come check it out. We'll have some things that were a few giveaways, right? That's been the tradition so far. We've established at Orlando, so we'll do that again in Chicago for Aquachella. And then after that, if you missed that or you can't see that or you just got stuff going on and you're in the area on September the 12th, that's a Sunday, and I put a link in, I actually pinned the link in the chat, gcca.net. I'm going to be doing a talk there, similar talk. And again, I think we're going to be doing some free stuff, giveaway sort of thing, just a couple things for people who have a chance to show up. You might have a chance to get something. So we're going to be doing that on the 12th. And then on the 26th of September is the GCCA swap. That's a big one. So that is, to my knowledge, if not the, attendance-wise, it's probably the biggest one in the Midwest. There are usually a lot of people who show up for that one. We plan to be there. And what's interesting is our Primetime Aquatics business side of things is starting to expand a bit. And because of that, we might start bringing in other fish that we haven't necessarily bred, but fish that we're going to bring in, set aside. You know me and my quarantine. They're going to be quarantined for at least 2 weeks, most likely 4, before we ever sell them and put them on the website. We don't ship fish, so that's a question we get a lot. But this is something where typically what we've started to do is we'll put fish on the website so people can pre-order for pickup at the swaps or auctions that we're going to be at. So also, something new we haven't mentioned yet, because I wasn't sure if we were allowed to. Where are we going to be tomorrow?
Let's see. I'm really messed up, as you can tell.
Tomorrow's Thursday.
Today's Wednesday. I forgot all day that today was Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. Where are we going to be tomorrow night, you mean?
Yeah, where are we going to be tomorrow night?
Well, we're actually going to be right here, but we're not going to be alone.
That's right. So tomorrow night, if you go to KG Tropical's live stream, I believe they start at 7 Central Standard Time. So they start an hour earlier than we do.
Yes.
Yes. All 4 of us are going to be here. The 2 of us and John and Lisa on their KG Tropical's live stream. They're going to be here. And so we're just finishing out the kind of working out the bugs for having 4 people here instead of just the 2 of us. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Their live streams are usually a lot of fun. So hopefully you can join us there, and it will be one big pre-Aquachella live stream party thing.
It's going to be a party.
And I believe, don't quote me on this, but if you were to go onto YouTube and go to the Aquachella YouTube channel, they, I think, are planning to run live streams throughout the event. And we're going to be on some of those. I know John and I are going to be doing a live stream, unless something has changed, so hopefully it hasn't, at 9 before the event opens. And then I know you are going to be doing a live stream with Lisa and Kasha from Creative Pet Keeping at some point.
Cool.
So, but there's a schedule out there. So that's a bunch of the stuff that's going on. Now,
Fishy Biz is here.
Fishy Biz.
What's cracking?
How you doing, man?
What's cracking?
How you doing? All right. So I saw a bunch of questions already popping through. I also saw a super chat that I definitely want to make sure that we notice. Fish fan 20 gallon long. Thank you for the super chat. What peaceful centerpiece fish would you put with guppies, platies, corridors, coolie loaches, neon tetras, and a 20 long planted tank? Centerpiece fish. Guppies, platies, cories, coolies, neon tetras. Well, it depends on where we're at in that 20 long, because that could potentially be a tank that fills up very, very quickly with guppies and platies, certainly guppies. So we'd probably want to be a little bit careful on the stocking of that tank, because it could get very, very heavily stocked quickly. But in theory, your centerpiece fish may also start taking care of some of the fry. So I don't know if you want that to happen. If you've only got I've got a few guppies, a few platies, a few cories, a couple coolie loaches, and maybe half a dozen neon tetras, then yeah, you've probably got room for a centerpiece fish. But if you're getting into I've got 10, 15 guppies and I've got 12 platies and things are really starting to take off, you might not have the room. But assuming you did, and assuming you're not trying to keep the fry for your guppies and your platies, I don't know your water parameters, so I would say usually in a 20 long, the good centerpiece fish are something that's going to have color and it's going to be personable. So honey gouramis, I think, would probably be the one.
That's what I was going to say.
Honey gourami can work. A dwarf gourami might be an option. Dwarf gourami males can be a little bit more aggressive than the females. The nice thing is they basically look the same. So if you can find a female, great. But the honey gouramis typically aren't going to be aggressive. The dwarfs, maybe, maybe not. We also have had really good luck with the sunset gourami, the thick lip. That's always a hard one to say. The thick lip sunset gourami. We actually talked about those in actually the honey gouramis too in our latest video. So those are all options. If you're like, I don't want a gourami, I want something different. That's when you start getting into things like apistos, rams, crebensis. Those are all cichlids that stay on the smaller side, but they will almost assuredly take any guppy and platy fry and do a magic trick with them and make them go missing. So if you don't care about that, then that could be an option. I would strongly recommend, however, if you do go that route, you probably don't want to have more than just a single male. And the downside of that is you don't get to necessarily appreciate all of what those fish can bring to a tank. The upside is huge, and that is you don't wind up with a breeding pair that does a number on all the other fish in that tank. So those are with the 20 longs, I think. You have anything that popped in your brain besides what I mentioned?
No, you rams and
and there's so many different varieties too with the apistos and the rams. I mean, I say those a lot, and people are probably like, oh, here he goes with the apistos and the rams again. But when you start breaking it down, I mean, you got the German blues, the Bolivians, the black rams, you've got the neon blues, you have the balloons, you have the golds. So, and then there's variations from those, long fins, short fins. So it's like right there, you've probably got 6 or 8 options. And then the apistos, I don't even know. I mean, there's a lot of options. Now, I will say with some of the rams and many of the apistos, if you've got really hard water, you have to consider that as well. Maybe that might not be as advantageous where the crebensis, they would do better with that water that's getting on the harder side. So, yeah. So hopefully that gives you some things to think about. I saw yet another.
Sergey wanted to know what size tanks these are behind us. These are 8.3, something like 8.3 gallons from Lifeguard Aquatics. They're the raised tanks. Love them.
Yeah, they're really cool tanks. I like them a lot. I like the filtration system. It doesn't, so you did the video on how to slow the flow down for some of these all-in-one filters. And we've actually taken the sponges off a couple of the tanks because I'm finding that of most of the all-in-one tanks, these pumps are most appropriately sized for the tanks, which is great. I know we've done some all-in-ones before, and that return is just blowing fish all over the place, where these ones are doing, I'd say, a better job of being more appropriately sized. Fishy Biz Aquatics, thank you so much for the super chat. What's cracking, Joanna? I want to crash you and KG live stream again.
Well, you're a knock, knock, knock at the door.
That's right, yep. Look forward to seeing you, having you drop by tomorrow. Are you going to be at Aquachella? Because I heard conflicting stories that you were, and then maybe you're not going to be there in Chicago. But it was fun hanging out with you in Orlando. Whips World, thank you so much for the super chat. Looking forward to this Saturday at 10 a.m.
Woohoo!
So you're ready to roll.
Get to meet the
we
Whip
are
Man.
too. So it'll be a lot of fun. It will. And I want to be clear here, because I felt really bad when people in Orlando said, "Oh yeah, I stopped by the booth, but you looked busy and you were talking to people and." I didn't get a chance to stop by and say hello. Please don't let that be the case if you're going to Chicago, especially if you see me talking to somebody who's wearing another badge, which means they're another creator or a vendor. You
kick them out of the way.
Just interrupt.
Say, excuse me.
You'll find one of us, but definitely the whole point, the entire point to going to Aquachella for us is to hang out with you. That's it. If you're not there, there would be no reason for us to go. So that is the entire point of us going to these events, because we want to hang out and meet everybody who's part of our community. So that's our priority. Let's see. Michelle, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. Glad you're here. All right, let's see here. I'm going to scroll on up because I saw some good questions, and I always do this. I scroll all the way to the top, And then I missed like 47. Actually, I don't even think I can scroll. Oh, no, I can still scroll.
Can you?
I don't know.
It's still early.
Yeah, no, I don't think I can get all the way to the top anymore. So I'll mess up the whole chat situation again. A couple things. I saw a comment about, hey, how come you can't stream at a different time and a different day because it overlaps with other streams? One, I didn't realize this until I was on the Main's Tails, Fur and Fins live stream, because they actually do, they kind of mentioned all the live streams that are going on. No matter what we do, no matter what time of the day or day of the week, if it's in the evening, we're going to be overlapping with somebody. There's just, at this point, there are dozens upon dozens of live streams. And this, quite frankly, is the only day and time that we have available. I mean, we're incredibly busy, and you work all day. And normally I work all day when I'm not teaching from home. So then it's just the evenings, and Friday, Saturday with kids and all the stuff going on. Friday, Saturday, Sundays, they're completely always booked, like every single week. Mondays we have a standing commitment. Thursdays we have a standing commitment. So then it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Tuesdays for a long time we had something going on, and now we do again. So when I say this is the only day and time, it really is, unless we were doing it like 10 o'clock at night Central Standard Time. That's just not going to happen.
Then I would be sleeping.
Yeah, then it's like it gets really late. So that's why it's not, I don't mean to double book, the live stream schedule, but that's just what happens. I saw another question, and I don't remember who. I think it was Old Fish Guy. And he said, you ready?
Yeah.
If you weren't in the fish hobby, what hobby would you be into? So I'll let you answer that question. If it wasn't,
me too?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
If I wasn't in the fish hobby,
yeah. What would be your thing? What would be your go-to hobby?
Oh well, it would be my other hobby, which is gardening. Something related to gardening.
Yep. So that's
or crafting. Because they just go together.
Yep. That's kind of where
everything goes with crafting.
Where you started, crafting, gardening, that
Heck
kind of
yeah.
thing. If you were to watch. I did 2 videos. They were like the fish room before the fish room. It was like prequels, and basically nobody watched them. But if you did watch those videos, I actually shot those videos on an iPad because I had no intention of ever posting them to any social media. I was just documenting the fish room before it became a fish room, the way that we see it here. And there's one shot of the fish room, like where the multis are, like the 50-gallon lowboy, and your craft room.
Yeah.
Before we converted it to a fish room. And so it was definitely there was a lot of craftiness going on there.
Oh yeah, it was major construction zone, and it was crammed full of craftiness.
Yep. Now for me, what would I be doing if I wasn't in the fish keeping hobby? I do a lot of different things, so it's one of those, it's just how do I find the time sort of stuff. But I take the boys to no, my older one goes by himself, but we usually hit the gym 4 days a week, so we have that going on. My boys and I, we do karate, so that takes up a decent amount of time. We just got a motorcycle, so bought a Harley, and that is now taking up more time because we like to go riding around now that we have an opportunity once in a while. So yeah, we're definitely people who can fill a schedule. That's always just been the way I am. When I think of, can I do this? I'm like, okay, I don't have anything particularly on that day and time, so I'm just going to go ahead and pack the schedule. And by the time you get all these other one-off commitments, it's like, I don't think I actually have any time in the week now to just sit down for a minute. But it's just the way I roll sometimes.
Yeah, you're crazy.
So that's kind of what I think some of the things that we do besides fish keeping. All right, let's see here. Let's see, Killer Kitty 08. I have that right because I'm not wearing any glasses or anything. So, hi you both are amazing. What is the difference between carbon and zeolite, and what do they do for the aquarium filtration process? So both of them are more involved in the chemical filtration aspect. So on all my aquarium filter videos, I talk about there are 3 main components to fish tank filtration. The first, and in my opinion by far the most important, is the biological filtration, and that is the ability of a filter to provide surface area and water flow for beneficial bacteria to grow. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a filter, and you could still get that. You could still accomplish that task with a wave maker and plenty of surface area in your fish tank, right? But typically what we do as aquarists is we have a dedicated space, whether that's an internal filter or a hang-on back or a canister or a sponge filter. And so what that thing is doing is it's got a lot of surface area because you've got media in there. And then the microbes attached to that, and they're converting the ammonia to nitrite, nitrite to nitrate. So that's the biological side. That's by far, it's not even close. That is by far the most important type of filtration. If that's wrong, your fish die, right? And so that has to be correct. All filters do that. In fact, when I say that we overfilter fish tanks, what I mean by that is all tanks are overfiltered when it comes to biological filtration, because the surfaces on your tank become a biological filter, provided that you have adequate oxygen and water flow and surface tension for gas exchange. The second component, and I think certainly the one that's the most recognizable, is mechanical filtration. And that is the ability of whatever you've added to your fish tank, whatever filter you've added, to trap particulate matter. It makes the water appear more clear, right? So you don't have detritus floating around, or the fish aren't kicking stuff up out the substrate and things are in the water column. Visually, that doesn't look the best, and there are filters that do a better job. And so things like hang-on back filters, canister filters with a nice turnover rate, gallons per hour. You put some filter floss in there, and they do a fantastic job of trapping particulate matter in the media, making the water appear clearer. And then what we've got is what you're talking about, and that's the chemical filtration side. Now, I will say I don't do any chemical filtration in our fish room, and I haven't for a very, very, very long time. And so when it comes to carbon and zeolite and things like that, they're going to neutralize certain compounds. And so depending on what you add to those substances, maybe they're going to neutralize some nitrate, or maybe you've got an ammonia spike or a nitrite spike, and that can be somewhat helpful in an emergency where some of those things will bind to the ammonia or nitrite, or they will bind to sulfates and things like that. So when it comes to the carbon, when it comes to the zeolite, I just don't use it. I don't spend the money on it. And with 75 fish tanks, whatever we've got up and running now, I haven't found a need for it. And so that's hopefully that kind of sort of answers your question. Spotless Aquarium, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. Hey guys, just curious if there's a specific reason you're not into saltwater reef keeping. I've recently gotten into it, and it's completely reinvigorated my love for the hobby. I'll still always keep fresh and fresh though.
Because of the cichlids.
Because of the cichlids, yeah. Mm-hmm. So primarily it's time, and it's one of those things where I know. So first of all, I don't do a lot of the tank maintenance, right? My boys are the ones that primarily do the tank maintenance. They've got their days broken up in the sections that they do in the fish room, and each of them spend about 3 days, not whole days, but they spend 3 straight days down there cleaning fish. Yeah,
sundown.
No, but they've got their little couple hour time that they do, and they break that up into three different days, and they are the ones that maintain the tanks. I don't really have time to do that, and once they stop doing that, I will either have to hire people to do it, or I'll have to go to an auto water change system, because there's no way by myself that I have the time to maintain that many tanks. So to answer your question then, since I'm not the one maintaining them, that means I either have to start maintaining them, or they have to learn how to do it themselves. And this is, as you know, salt water can be expensive. It's not necessarily... It can be more challenging too, for sure, but it is expensive, and you have to make sure that you get the water parameters right and the salinity right. And it's not like that's groundbreakingly difficult to do, but if I'm not the one doing it, but I'm the one spending all the money, that becomes an issue, right? If they get it wrong, things can go horribly wrong. And they don't have the time necessary to be adding time to their schedule with school and all the things that they do with sports and activities. And yeah. Luke's got his own other real job. So that's primarily why. But I love saltwater. I love the colors. I love the personalities. I've mentioned it a million times. I've got a bunch of saltwater stuff I'd love to do, from seahorses to jellyfish to gobies. Would love to. Trust me. But It's just a timing thing right now. All right, let's see here. Tesla Killdozer, thank you so much for the super chat. Whoop, wait, where did it go? Hold on. There it is. Link to the chat. I was rescaping and doing a water change on my Severum grow-out tank.
Excellent excuse. you're clear.
Yeah, that's a good excuse. Whenever you're doing water changes, especially on a 7 grow out tank.
Or a rescape.
Yeah. That's good stuff. That's fun stuff. Let's see here. Did I miss one? I felt like
there's a couple questions.
Okay.
I think I can't go back further now. About bettas in a community tank. First of all, there was a question about a king betta.
Okay,
Can you
I
put
saw
a
that.
king betta in a peaceful community tank versus a regular betta?
So my answer is, based on our experience with king bettas, they were by far the most active and most aggressive of the bettas that we've ever kept. So I would be hesitant to do that. I'm not saying it can't work, and I'm not saying with the right type of community and the right size tank that it's impossible, because it's not. I mean, if you go extreme, like, okay, I've got a 4-foot tank and I've got some really fast rainbow fish and some fish that are just coolie, we were talking about coolie loaches before, some bottom feeders that are really fast, or you've got some bristlenose plecos who the king betta is not going to mess with them. If you had the right situation in a large enough tank, yeah, it's going to probably work just fine. But most of the time, people are keeping bettas in smaller tanks, so usually 10 gallons and less. And in a 10 gallon or less, even maybe a 20 or less, I would be hesitant to add a king betta to any type of tank, because
but it's also dependent on the personality. And I have heard that there are some king bettas that are sold at like big box stores, Petco, PetSmart, that are actually might not be a king betta. It's just a very large betta that they're selling as a king betta. So it's all based on personality too. But like Jason said, we only have experience with the really aggressive, really, like fronting up all over the place. So, but for betta community tank mates, that was kind of a separate question. We have bettas in community tanks, and they've done well with, let's see, what did we have? We had them with glow lights. Currently have one with glow lights. What's the other one?
White clouds.
White clouds.
Yeah.
Didn't we have them with embers and gold tetras?
Embers and golds. The only slight issue we had there, we had to play with it for a little bit. I think it was the gold tetras started to nip a little bit at the male betta's fins.
The embers.
I don't think it was the embers or the golds.
It was the embers.
It was the embers. Okay, so the embers
were small.
Yeah, they were sneaking
what?
a little.
The little stinkers.
What was happening is, I don't think we were doing a good enough job. Like downstairs, we have a very regimented schedule of how we feed in the fish room. How we feed is twice a day. It's always at the same time. Where when we get to the tanks in the kitchen, sometimes they're like, "Oh, did you feed them?" Oh, it's just typical. Oh, wait, I forgot. Oh, you didn't do it. So we might have only been feeding those fish once a day. And if you want a great tip on how to reduce fish aggression, if they're not hungry, they tend to be less aggressive. So in that particular tank, I think maybe on average we were only feeding them once a day. And so the embers would be like, my stomach's kind of growling. I'm going to go ahead and just see what this little wavy thing tastes like. Oh, this isn't so bad. This is filling my stomach. It doesn't hurt. But we removed the betta. And then I think we realized, okay, wait a minute. I don't think we were feeding them enough. Let's go ahead and try it again. We put the betta back in, made sure we fed them twice a day, and then we didn't have any problems. So, yeah, we did a betta care video, and we've got a whole bunch of different suggestions when it comes to, or not a whole bunch, but we have some suggestions when it comes to tank mates, but those have worked for us. The things like Cory cats can work. Again, we have to assume that we've got the proper size tank for the fish that we're talking about, but there are some options out there. I personally like and it's happening more and more, I think, especially at the local fish store level. And I even think I saw it at PetSmart at one point where they were doing bettas in with the larger tanks, where you'd be like, oh, there's a betta in there. So I kind of think that's cool, because a lot of people, they get the impression, just because they always see them in the cups by themselves, that they have to keep them by themselves, when that's not necessarily the case. Yep. Let's see here. Asia. I see Jason as a biker. Yeah, and I've mentioned this before. I had bikes most of my youth, in my teens and in my 20s, and I kind of got away from it when the boys were very, very young, because I just didn't want a bad thing to happen while they were small. I don't want a bad thing to happen when they're large either. But yeah, most of the stuff I rode were sport bikes. They went fast, had a Harley, and then got rid of it, and now we're back at it again, which is a lot of fun. It's cool. What else we got? We've got
back-to-back first time watching a live stream. Let's see. William says, first time watching a live stream live. Welcome to live.
Welcome to live.
And then Jetty J says, hey, first time watching.
That's cool.
Oh, please keep doing fish room tours.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That is definitely
That's
on our
fun.
list of things to do. And we have a couple of fish store tours that we need to do.
Yes.
We've been invited to a couple stores, and they want us to come hang out there. And I'm excited to do that. Yeah, so the fish room tours, as you might imagine, have been a little bit more difficult with everything that's been going on the last year and a half. Some people are apprehensive to have random strangers, not strangers, but people wandering around their home. But I sense that that's starting to open up a little bit. I can't wait to get back because I learn a lot when I go to fish rooms, and you learn different things and how they're keeping fish, and the types of fish are really cool. Everybody's got their own little niche that they like to fall into. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Lisa's here. Lisa from KG Tropical. Super excited to see you too tomorrow. Hope to see everyone else at Aquachella this weekend. It's going to be fun.
Travels.
Yep. It should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's nice this second half of this year getting back to some type of normalcy when it comes to hanging out with people. 5-2 Moto. Did somebody say motorcycle? Somebody said motorcycle, man. Yeah, I got a 2019 Ultra Limited Electroglide. Well, I guess it's not an Ultra anymore. It's a Electroglide Limited. So very cool. It's the old man bike, but this one over here was like, I'm not going anywhere without a backrest and armrests and all that stuff. So I'm like, well, sounds like a fair deal.
John had said, John had a question.
Okay. John who?
John Wood.
Okay.
Hey, John. Put some black worms in my cory tank. Is there some way to get a group of them to live and breed in there so the cories would have a living food source while still feed other?
So I have never tried to grow black worms, and I don't think there's a way to keep them in the tank with the cories. I think eventually the cories will eat them all, but I have never tried to culture black worms. I'm lazy. When it comes to live foods, the only live foods that I will typically spend the time to culture or grow is live baby brine. So, and that does limit me in some ways to what I can breed. That's why I don't breed tetras. That's why I don't breed rainbow fish, because it's like, well, live baby brine is often too big for them, and I don't want to go to the micro worms and things. And it's not like that stuff is hard. I just don't feel like doing it. So that's just what happens, I guess. What do we got?
Richard says, I will be there. Aquachella, I'm assuming.
Cool.
I will be the 6-foot-plus guy holding a 2-year-old, the size of a 4-year-old, in one of your T-shirts. Cool. Can't
nice.
wait.
So wait, is this 2-year-old the size of the 4-year-old in the T-shirt, or are you going to be in the T-shirt? Because this 2-year-old the size of a 4-year-old, you're looking at an adult small right there.
Yeah.
Like, yep, that's my boy. So, yeah, cool. DM Aquatics. Hello from Greece. That's cool.
Ooh.
Thanks for being here. I'm thinking about setting up my second aquarium. How many Neolampologus multifasciatus multis can I put in a 20-gallon? So I always say with something like that, start out with a half a dozen. And you start out with a half a dozen because that way you are increasing the chances that you have both males and females tremendously. And then just let them do their thing. They will once they get settled. And sometimes it takes a little while for them to get settled in and to start breeding. A lot of people are like, man, I've got these fish. They're at adult size and it's been 6 months and they're not breeding. What I have found is it takes them a while. If they're adult size, it will take them a while to just get settled in and get their shells the way they want them to. And they bury them up and they all get their own little spaces and then they start pairing up. And then eventually you start seeing babies. But I would start with 6. I think that's a good number for a 20. And then probably within a year, you're going to be like, yeah, I started with 6 and now I've got 40. So pretty cool. Clint's here. Welcome, Clint. Glad you're here.
What's up?
Dave from Iowa is just hanging out.
Sweet. Hey, Dave. See you Sunday.
Very cool. Yep. A lot of people we're going to be seeing.
Gamesar says, looking forward to more color videos. That was awesome, and I'm not even a big fan of orange. Cool.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll get more and more of those going. We just have to list out all the ideas. And we missed a bunch of orange ones, and there were some that were so obvious. I'm like, and I remember I was telling him, like, I know I'm missing some really obvious ones, and I'm like, well, should I add the discus? I'm like, no, I'm not going to add the discus because that's too...
The Severum, we had a difference of opinion. You did not feel that they're orange. I think they're
Well, the gold
orange.
spot, the red spot golds are more orange, but not the regular golds. But I actually, I mean, it was sitting right there looking at us the whole time, like, should I add him? I'm like, I'm not going to add him. He's not orange enough for me.
Yeah.
And like someone's like, tiger barbs? I'm like, that's true. Yeah, tiger barbs are a good one.
Way to go.
Yeah, so I don't know what the color.
It's a good starting point, though.
Yeah, the next one we'll have to figure out what color we're going with next.
There's a request for purple, just so you
purple.
know. I did see
that's
somebody
interesting.
requesting
Okay.
for purple.
I think we could do that. I think that could be a good number 2 color to go to, the second one.
Purpley.
Before I forget, and I don't remember who we were talking about it, but it was a good question about substrate and planted tanks for beginner low light planted tanks. And so the question was something like, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on my tank with a planted substrate because it does get expensive. Do I have to do that? That was more or less the question. I'm kind of paraphrasing because the conversation it was right before the live stream started. Now I can't scroll all the way back up. But I did want to address that question because I think it's interesting. So a lot of people, especially if you've never done planted tanks before, one of the things that you have to think about or consider is, okay, what kind of substrate am I going to run in this planted tank? And depending on where you go on the internet, you start seeing, okay, well, we've got Fluval Stratum and EcoComplete and all this specialty substrate, and you fill that up, and that's going to provide the nutrients. Fluorite would be another one, and you have to spend all this money on a special substrate to grow plants. Now, something to consider. We have, again, 75-ish tanks running in our home right now. I would say at least 2/3 of them are planted. And I am aware of four tanks out of the 75-ish that have a substrate other than just inert sand or gravel. One of them behind us has the CoralView, what was that stuff? The CoralView substrate. You remember what that was called? It was like the aqua. It's like a planted substrate.
Yeah.
One of those tanks does. You have the Fluval Stratum in your planted tank.
Lava something?
Yeah, something like some kind of lava soil.
It used to be around here somewhere.
So you've got the Fluval Stratum in your planted tank, and then I have fluorite in another one. Mm-hmm. That's it. The rest of our tanks are just basic, either pool filter sand or the top fin or carob sea, some type of carob sea sand. Some of it's Cichlid mix, some of it's not. And for rooted plants, generally what we do is we just start out with root tabs. And even that, I don't generally use the store-bought root tabs. I did a video on DIY root tabs using Osmocote Plus and gel capsules. And you can make thousands of root tabs for, I don't know about thousands, but you could definitely make 1,000. Like easily make 1,000 for probably $40, as opposed to paying, I paid $40 and got 80. Right? No, I can pay $40 and make them and I'll have 1,000. Anyway, it's kind of overkill. I wouldn't get the 8-pound bag like I did because I'm going to have that 8-pound bag for the rest of my life. We'll put the root tabs in, space them out about, I don't know, maybe like a diameter, like maybe a 6-inch diameter, space them out throughout the tank. And again, I only use them if I know I've got plants that are going to be root feeders. So crypts and sword plants would be 2 really good examples of plants that are going to get in there and they're going to get an extensive root system. If we've got a Nubius or some type of floating plant, root tabs aren't even going to be a thing. I don't worry about the substrate at all in terms of fertilizers. Now, most of the packages say replace when needed. In other words, look at your plants. If they're not looking so good, put more root tabs in. Usually that's going to be every 6 to 9 months. We put them in initially, and I mentioned this, maybe it was even last week, but I cannot remember the last time I added new root tabs to an established tank. Because the fish have this little opening on their bottom side. It's a fertilizer producer. Sometimes it's a long string, and then it falls off.
Cool.
Yeah, just a visual for you.
That's great.
Yeah. So they're a fertilizer producer, and then all that stuff, especially if you've got gravel, kind of seeps into the gravel, and we just don't gravel vac those tanks, the planted tanks with the rooted plants. And that seems to do a really good job of keeping the plants going, even if it's sand. I mean, some of that stuff is going to sink into the sand as well, and that's what we use for fertilizer. The fish do all the work for us. For floating plants, even that, there are liquid fertilizers. Now, sometimes those floating plants, especially if they're fast growing, might do well with the directions. You just say, okay, we'll squirt so much in per volume, do that after water changes or once a week or 2 weeks or whenever you see your plants not looking so great. For us, because we have so many tanks, we generally, I don't remember the last time we used a liquid fertilizer in any of our tanks.
Yeah, I don't use it a lot
Usually
at all.
if we do, there's a chance that I start throwing off the balance and then I start getting green hair algae or a little bit of extra blackbeard algae. So again, I just let the fish produce the ammonia and let the microbes do their thing and convert all that stuff to nitrate. It winds up in the water and let the plants do their thing. Now, are they getting everything they need from the fish? For the most part, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like nature, right? So the moral of the story is planted tanks don't have to be as complicated as some people make them out to be.
Yeah.
Now, caveat to that, we're talking about simple plants. Low light, for the low to medium light, beginner plants, Crypts anubias, the Java fern, Java moss, all the stuff that you've done videos on, which you've done a lot. The small scape, by the way, if you want more plant information.
Especially for small tanks.
Yeah, the small scape has got
rule.
starting to get a nice little video library of plant care videos. And we've got some on this channel too,
plants.
like beginner plants, beginner plant guide. So the plants that I talk about and the ones that you see us keeping in the fish room, that's how we roll. Now, if we had some special plants, higher light, then maybe we'd be talking about something else. Okay, let's see here. Joe, thank you so much for the super chat. Thoughts on a centerpiece fish for a heavily planted, dirted 55-gallon with guppies? The odd fry snacking isn't the end of the world, but digging would be bad. Yeah, it sure would be bad, right? So my suggestion would be, and I'll give you a couple of examples or suggestions, but we actually did. I did a video on centerpiece, actually cichlids that go well in a planted tank. And I think that would be a great video to watch because usually when you're dealing with a planted tank and you want, especially a 55-gallon, and you want a centerpiece fish, you really want that centerpiece fish to shine. And a lot of cichlids can make that happen. So check out that video for sure. So it was cichlids for planted tanks. In a 55 centerpiece, so something that comes to mind right away is a pearl gourami, and I know I'm on the gourami kick tonight, but I really like pearl gouramis because they get a little bit larger than the gouramis I'd mentioned earlier, and they have an amazing amount of iridescence to them, and they're not usually as aggressive as some of the other larger gouramis because you don't want to get your guppies all fin-nipped. That would be bad. They're not going to dig or anything like that. They spend very little time except for when it's eating time, maybe picking off the substrate occasionally. Cichlids, if you want, again, what I mentioned before, the epistos, the cribs, the rams, they don't dig for the most part. Not that I can remember at least. Avanacara etocheta was another one in that video that I mentioned that does really well as a centerpiece fish. I'm trying to think of what else on the slightly larger side. The problem is some you heavily planted, so that's going to, like your severums and stuff, are going to eat, plus they're a little bit too large for 55. Angelfish? Possibly. I might consider doing, maybe not a veil tail, because you never know if the male guppies are going to get angry with the angelfish. For the most part, the guppies are way too active for the angelfish to really fin nip them. So that could be a good potential option as well. David, thank you so much for the super chat. Hi, Jason and Joanna. I did a water change on Sunday, and then on Tuesday night, my 20-gallon tank is still brown. How can I fix this? So brown in what sense? Is it maybe brown due to driftwood? Because if that's the case, just give it a little bit of time. If you added some driftwood and it's brown, it's fine. In fact, those tannins are good for fish, so it's not going to be anything bad for your aquarium. It's actually good. I know it can be not everybody's cup of tea. It's not
That's a tannin joke.
Yeah, it's a tannin joke. It's not everybody's tank of tea. I get that. Okay.
I got that.
Thank you. That's my joke for the night.
Yeah, is that an established tank, or is that something where you just did add some driftwood? Or something?
So the more water changes you do, the more that's going to go away. So usually that's the only reason, or that's the main reason why they get brown. If you've got maybe some usually cloudy water due to a bacterial outbreak is going to be more of like a white cloudiness. So the brown, and you can leave another, just leave it just a chat. You don't have to obviously do another super chat, but if it's driftwood, then just water changes, but don't stress about it. Just do your regular weekly water changes, and over time it's going to go away. It actually makes me sad when our brown water goes away from our tannins. So yeah, I know. We had the 29 where you added in all that driftwood with the brilliant green rasboras.
It's starting to clear up.
Yeah,
sorry,
it makes me sad because
yeah.
the brilliant green rasboras, a lot of fish will show even nicer color when there's tannins in the water, and the brilliant green rasboras were showing great color. The problem with that is I can't get that on video because, I mean, I could, but it's not going to show the color because there's always so much reflection in a tank that's filled with tannins. But it's starting to lighten up. It's like, oh, dang it. Tyler, thank you very much for the super chat. Your low boy multi-tank was always one of my favorites. I recently got the last 4 multis at a local fish store. They are in a 20 long and were instantly fun to watch. I can't wait to see their little colony grow. That's awesome. Yeah, 20 long is a great tank. I think you start out with a good number of fish, so 4. As long as you've got at least 1 male and 1 female, you're probably going to get more. And that's when they start to breed, that's when things get really interesting. And they start, you add more and more shells, and they start making their little homes. It's really cool. A lot of fun. A lot of fun to watch. What you got over there?
All right, Nadia, can I really only put 1 pea puffer in a 5-gallon? Don't have one yet, but after the sudden loss of our Betta boy, genetics sucks. I'm sorry about your Betta. We're thinking something different. Well, you could put 2 in a 5-gallon. However, if you love them both, which you probably will, it'll break your heart when they start fighting. So I would say definitely, because I've had 2 pea puffers and they need space. They did very well in a 12 long, where they each have their own sides. It can get a little rough. So the I would say that's a pretty good rule to stick with, 5 gallons per pea puffer.
Yeah. And again, if you've got a pair, can you breed them in there? Maybe, but it's just not worth the stress because we're trying to keep fish so that we're not stressed out. So I missed a bunch of super chats. So this thing is really skipping around. And by the way, if I ever miss one, just pipe up and be like, hey man, did you see my question? Let's see here. JL, not here. Thank you for the super chat. I've watched your vids on cichlids. Now I can to do a plan to do a 180 gallon. Would you recommend blue acaras, severum, and or silver dollars? Also at Aquachella, if you see my hometown guy Joe's Shrimp Shack, tell him JL wishes he was there. I'm sure I will see Joe. So he is usually stopping around the booth. I like your stocking ideas. I think it's going to be a magnificent tank in a 180 with electric blue acaras, severums, and silver dollars. Absolutely. That is, I've kept those together, all of those actually together before, and had no issues whatsoever. The silver dollars are going to be great. Those are the ones you probably want to get at least 6 of them. Severums, you can do a group of both. Right now I've got electric blue acara in, and they're still doing well with a group of Viejas and Spilum. So, and that group has been really cool. And that's a 125. That's not a 180. So love it. Yeah, that's going to be a really fun tank to watch, especially as those fish grow. And with the severums, you've got all kinds of options. Maybe the one option I wouldn't do for the severums is the green severum, just because they tend to be, at least in my experience, the most aggressive out of the groups. But golds, red spot, the red spot gold severums, the red shoulder severums are all really, really nice options. So that would be pretty cool. Drew, thank you so much for the super chat. First time catching live, need help. Woo! Which Geophagus in a 125 gallon? Wife likes the 7-eye, I like redhead Tapajos. Will be with Beischer, Severum, and an Oscar. So, okay, 125. I'm assuming it's just one of each, the Beischer, the Severum, and the Oscar. I have kept, I'm trying to think of what Severums I've kept with Oscars. Or what Geophagus I've kept with Oscars. So I've done Steindachnerai, which is probably out of the Geophagus. Yeah, they're colorful, don't get me wrong, but maybe not quite as colorful as some of the others. I think either one of the options that you have chosen, the redhead Tapajos and the 7-eye, they'll both be good. So I think if you like one of those, that could be a nice option as well. Good, really nice color. I think pretty much all of these Cernamensis types, so Cernamensis, Altafrons, Wine Milleri, are all potential options. So just, yeah, I mean, in a 125, I would just pick one that speaks to you. The only, well, actually, there's maybe even with this one, I don't necessarily know if I'd keep a group of them, but Braziliensis might also work. Those get larger. They're a little bit more aggressive than the others, so you have to be a little bit careful. But I think with an Oscar and a full-grown Severum, that could potentially work. But I wouldn't do a group of Braziliensis in a 125. The other ones, you might be able to get away with a group. The Braziliensis, I would just add one, potentially. Yeah. What you got?
Okay. Ryan says, I absolutely love tannins. How can you keep it? There's different ways you can add a product. Doesn't Fritz have black water, dark water, or something?
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
a product that you can actually add. And then you can also add leaves, like Indian almond leaves. That's great. And it's a natural thing. They'll love it. I've even heard that you can use tea. You can actually add tea to the water. So don't quote me on it. I've heard it. But with the leaves that you can order from, fish suppliers, and I mean, even doesn't Flip Aquatics?
Yeah, Flip Aquatics has catappa leaves and all that stuff. Yeah, the tea you have to be careful about because there's a special kind, and I don't think it's just like, oh, let's just dump a tea bag in there because there's caffeine and stuff in there. Yeah. My fish freaked out and they all died. Thanks for the advice.
I watched the orange video, so I got my fish peach tea.
Yeah. The dark water stuff. The other one is choya wood, because what's nice about the choya wood is it can release, and you can get those in bigger pieces. I see that more commonly now. They got the big pieces, not like the little ones.
They're like trees.
But you
have one.
Yeah.
Right back there.
I didn't know that.
Right there. Yeah, it's part of my sculpture.
Yeah. Right over here. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, depending on the size tank you have, you can add in choya wood, and that will release tannins, and then it kind of breaks down relatively quickly compared to other types of wood, and you can just keep re-adding it. Same thing with the catappa leaves. It gives it more of that kind of natural sort of feel. But yeah.
Do alder cones add tannin?
They sure do.
There you go. That's another one. And they're really cute. So especially if you have shrimp, super cute because they look like tiny pine cones.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Very nice. All right, let's see here.
So wait. David says that it was an established tank. I don't have any driftwood in there, just brown water. Now, why would the water turn brown after a water change?
So, all right, hold on. So you've got brown water, established tank, no driftwood. Then we probably are dealing with possibly some type of algae, or we've stirred some stuff up, right, during the water change. So if it's not a planted tank, that's when I'm making sure I'm doing my gravel vac and I'm sucking out all that fish waste that can contribute to higher nitrate levels, that can contribute to algae and bacteria and stuff getting a little out of control. So yeah, that would be my next step, is if you are not gravel vacuuming the tank, assuming it's not planted, that would be the thing I would do. All right, let's see here. KG Tropicals.
What?
I'm just letting you know I'm totally copying you. Hold on, the thing's moving. And throwing out a few shirts during my talk on Sunday. Hey, man. That's cool with me.
Well, that's funny because our big surprise is during his show that we're actually throwing out your shirts.
That's right. Yeah. So. Actually, we're throwing you out in the crowd. Yeah, John, come on up here for a minute. Who wants a prize? Ugh. Right? So just get ready to, crowd surf or whatever that is. If you catch John, you get to keep him. I don't know if Lisa's going to agree with me on that one, but I'm just making up as I go. So I'm up in the game. I'm going to put a Primetime Aquatics shirt on you and throw you out in the crowd, and you get the shirt plus a YouTuber.
What's that called?
I'll see you a shirt and raise you a YouTuber. That's the crowd surfing.
Crowd surfing. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Nice. Can't wait. Oh, my eye. All right, let's see here. All right. Make that zoomies autocorrect. Give the fish zoomies after they are all caffeinated? Sure. I can see that happening.
Then they get hooked.
Yep. Let's see here. Drew says, yeah, thank you. Only one Bisher, red shoulder Severum, and one Oscar. Yeah, so you got lots of options there when it comes to the Geophagus. Pretty much get what you like. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm trying to go back up the chat here again. If you want me to answer a question, the best thing to do is put the @Primetime Aquatics on there. That way it illuminates for me. It illuminates it in orange. And then I know someone's asking me a question. So, for instance, MKD. I have a 13-inch Fahaka in a 180 by itself for a year now. I would like to try the challenge and breed. Can I raise another to the same size and put them together? Tank mates issues. The short answer is I have no idea. I've never had a Fahaka puffer. I don't know what the thing's going to do to the other one and how to go about breeding them. But if you ever are successful, I'd love to hear how you did it, because then I'll learn too. But yeah, I haven't kept anything puffer-wise more than a pea puffer. So actually, that's not true. At one point I had a brackish water 60-gallon, and I'm pretty sure I had a puffer in there. I don't remember. It was like 30 years ago. But there was a puffer in there with monos and scats. Let's see here. Nicholas says, what tank mates can I have with peacock cichlids? So I'm assuming just your standard Malawi Lake Malawi peacocks. Depends on the size tank. I personally have the best luck with peacock cichlid tanks when the tank is 6 foot or larger. That being said, then you'd go back to my videos and be like, well, then what about that 75-gallon you have over there that you've had for years? That one has worked out. I've even got males and females mixed together. But the trick with that particular tank is usually I only have, or through natural selection, if you will, I usually only have one male per species and the rest are females. So for instance, I might have a red empress male and he's showing great color. There might be 3 or 4 females in there. And then I might have a Eureka red male and there might be 2 or 3 females in there for him. And then I might have a dragon blood male and there might be a couple females which are also orange, which is cool. So if I'm trying to do an all male peacock tank, I would prefer to have a 6 foot tank for that. So at least let's say a 125. And then when it comes to tank mates, I try to be very limited on that because the male peacock cichlids are insane fish. Those are your showstoppers right there when they're full grown, and you've got the really pretty ones. You got the Jacob Fredbergi, or you've got the red empress, or you've got Lethrinops. If you've got some haps in there as well, some Ollie's. I mean, those are the fish. And so at that point, the only thing I really want in that tank besides them are probably maybe some like Synodontis cats, because they can go ahead and do the whole scavenger thing at the bottom. Maybe I've got some bristlenose plecos in there for doing the algae control. They primarily will come out at night, give them some rock work, some places to squeeze between so that they're not even running the risk of getting picked on, although our cichlids just ignore them. Even in our Mbuna tank, they just completely ignore the bristlenose plecos because they kind of grew up together. The trick with the bristlenose is you got to make sure that they're large enough that there's no chance of ever being eaten. And sometimes when you go to the store with bristlenose plecos, they're really small still. They're like, oh, here's 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and you throw them in your cichlid tank, and it's like, well, the cichlids were only 3.5 inches, but then your bristlenose wind up missing. So that's really what I do with the peacock tanks. I don't try to add too much more. I want them to be the showstoppers, if you will. What you got?
I just lost the one that I was holding.
All right. Well, I got another one over here.
Carry on.
All right. Daisy M says, I've always quarantined fish, but do you have to quarantine Neocaridina shrimp? I'm sure of what types of diseases they bring. I'm unsure of what types of diseases they bring. I don't quarantine shrimp for the most part. And it's just because they're not the most common diseases that fish have, which is going to be ick. They don't harbor that parasite for the most part. So I generally don't worry about it. Now, if you want to quarantine them, there's nothing bad. I mean, there's a chance, I suppose, that ick parasites could stick to them and maybe release, but it's probably unlikely. I wouldn't go through the process of quarantining them for 4 weeks. I might put them in a tank for a week or two. I'm like, all right, they look good. If there was something attached to them, I would have seen it by now. The shrimp would have been dead. Let me go ahead and throw them in my regular tank. So that's how I roll with it. Same thing with mystery snails. And people ask, do I quarantine plants? We don't. Not saying you shouldn't or can't, but it wouldn't be a 4-week thing. It'd probably just be like a week or two. Just chuck them in there, make sure there's no parasites or anything on there.
Mm-hmm. Boy, that'd be hard to do with crypts. They'd constantly be melting.
Yeah.
Night Rider says, let's see. Saw the Green Neon Tetra video. Have they been everything you hoped? And more. Yes, I love them. I love that tank. It's very purpley and green now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love them. Ours are outside in a breeding setup. No fry yet. Good luck. That would be amazing to have Millions of them.
Yeah. This is the first time we've had an outdoor pond. I mean, it's not big. It's, how many gallons is that pond?
50.
50. And it's just amazing. We've got, what do we have out there? Endlers, white clouds, and bristlenose plecos. And I cannot believe the amount of breeding that's happened, especially the white clouds. Like the white clouds that we have back here. Yeah. So those white clouds came from Flip Aquatics. We threw them out there. And within like 4 weeks, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at them all. And it's something like, well, you put them in a tank, and we don't get that kind of fry survival indoors, but you put them out there and they're going crazy, probably because there's a little bit of green hair algae. You've got those little nooks and crannies with the part that's
ledges.
The ledges and stuff. And then that's the ones that we have back there. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do next year? We're thinking maybe we'll do some type of tetra. I don't know. There's so many options.
Cool.
What I'm surprised by, I haven't, and maybe it's just because we can't see them, but I'm surprised the bristle, I thought you put a male and a female bristlenose in there, and I'm really surprised that I haven't seen any fry, but they'd be really hard to see in there. Yeah, so who knows? Maybe we'll pull them out. Well, there's 50 of those in there too.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that'll be a fun video. What is actually in our bin? Watch, there'll be nothing. Like some bird came by or some frog has been living in there.
No.
Yeah. Or like a fish accidentally dropped like a bluegill in there. It's like, well, we didn't put this bluegill in here and we have nothing else, but we're going to go ahead and put him back in the lake. Daniel says, I have a 75-gallon tank with small community fish with water that is around a pH of 8, 180 to 300 parts per million, KH, and hardness of 300, which is your GH. What kind of shrimp will work in my tank? The Neocaridina are probably the only shrimp that I could think of that would, and that's still pretty high. The 300 for your KH and GH is very high. I'm not so worried about the pH because we keep our Neocaridina at around a pH of 8, but our water hardness is like 170. So you could try Neocaridina. I'm not going to guarantee that they're going to be 100% awesome, but you can give it a try, right? You maybe get yourself a half a dozen cherry, red cherry shrimp or pumpkins or the blue dreams or something and see how they do. It might work out okay. I just don't know for sure with those kinds of hardness numbers. All right, let's see here.
All right.
What you got?
Did you already, Sam? I'm getting a custom built tank by the end of the year.
I have not.
Okay.
I don't know what
that
is.
Thinking of a 125 to 150 gallon Cichlid tank. What do you think are the best dimensions for it? P.S. Got plenty of room for it.
So I can tell you what I would do. If I was doing a custom tank of 150 gallons, the standard 150 is cool, right? It's 6 feet long. It's 18 and a half inches wide, and it's probably around 24, 25 inches, maybe even 26 inches tall. I personally would shorten that tank, and I would probably only go with, I don't know if I would make it much taller than a 75 gallon, which is about 20 inches tall. And since I'm shortening it, I would probably extend it to an 8-foot tank or a 7-foot tank, depending on, again, if you're staying with 150. So let's go, I'm going to do like a 7 or 8-foot tank, but I'm only going to make it 18 to 20 inches tall and still 18 and a half inches wide. That would be sweet. That would be cool. We've thought about doing that numerous times. So there's just something about a 7 or 8-foot tank that's amazing. And those peacock cichlids, right? That was the fish that are going in there. Yeah, they'll use that extra horizontal space. It'll be awesome. That would be my way I would roll with it. All right, let's see here. I'm scrolling around. Shannon says, well, she's saying it to somebody else. Howdy from Texas. I have a group of 12 baby clown loaches and a 40 long for now. I'm planning an 8-foot tank for them in the future. They love being in a group with lots of hiding spots. That's going to be really cool. So 8-foot tank. I just got done talking about an 8-foot tank, and you've got 12 baby clown loaches. Clown loaches are one of the most entertaining fish that you can get.
Heck yeah.
But you're going about it the right way. A nice big group and a nice big tank. They grow slow, so you've got a little bit of time. But yeah, they're the silliest one. We got 5 or 6, I can't remember, in our 150 right now. And they're always together. What was interesting is we had 2 that were pretty large. I would say 6 or 7 inches at least. They get wide bodied, which I think a lot of people overlook. we tend to think about fish size in terms of length, like, oh, this fish gets 7 inches or 8 inches, but it's a lot different when you're like, okay, I've got an eel that's 7 inches, but it's, maybe the width of your thumb, and you've got a 7-inch Oscar, which is a big, wide-bodied, larger fish. Well, clown loaches get a very tall body to them, so when they get larger, they get big. But anyway, it's cool because we had 2 of them, and then I added 4 more, and they were smaller, store-bought, 2.5 inches when we got them, and they instantly just went to the big guy. And one of the big ones doesn't like to be followed. He's like, you know what? I don't need all the attention, so he just likes to hang out in the rocks. The other big one's like, yep, I'm the leader of this pack. And then the other the 4 other ones, they just follow him around everywhere. So it's funny how they do that. They're like, you're the big guy. I'm just going to follow you everywhere you go. What about the other big guy? Leave the other big guy alone. He doesn't want to be bothered. All right, hold on a second here. Skipping around. Finn Wiggles, thank you so much for the #1 fan. Jumpin' Man. Appreciate it. Glad you're here as always.
Yay.
Thank you. All right, let's see. We're scrolling.
Oh, Andy the Beast wants to know. Hi, I just wanted to ask how to breed neon tetras. I bought peat moss, and I've got a 28 long tank. I mean 29? Is there a 28 long tank? If I'm reading that right. Anyways, could you give any tips? I'm not sure if I need to change the water in between.
So when it comes to breeding tetras, again, I would not say that I'm an expert. Even when I do the species profiles on tetras, I give general information, but when I've bred them based on experience, I usually go far more in depth. With most tetras, it's a matter of, so I'm assuming you use the peat to drop the pH. I'm assuming you've got water hardness that's conducive to neon tetra breeding, which is usually going to be less than 7. Water hardness is going to be on the lower end, so now you're looking at probably for optimal breeding, somewhere around 3 to 6 degrees for your KH and GH. They generally breed fairly regularly, and what people usually do is they'll put a spawning mop in the tank, and when they do their thing and they breed, they scatter the eggs everywhere. The eggs will adhere to the spawning mop. You take the spawning mop out, you can put it in a 10-gallon tank, and usually within a couple of days, you start to see little tiny, really, really tiny slivers of fish swimming around. They're going to have a little tiny egg sac attached to their stomach that they're going to go through. I don't know for the tetras how long that takes. It might be a day, it might be a little longer. But then they're going to need extraordinarily small foods to eat. And live baby brine will be far too big for them, so that's when you need the infusoria to usually make them grow and then eventually switch them over to live baby brine. So, but again, this is coming from more me talking to a lot of people who breed them and not from me doing it. So please understand there's a difference in this case. Jesse says, I'm upgrading my 20-gallon tank to a 32-gallon. Yay! Any tips? I'm a little nervous. I'm going to carry over my current gravel and my filter media. Any other recommendations? Well, that's a great question. I wouldn't be nervous. I know it's, especially if you don't do it a lot, it can be a little nerve-wracking. If you're carrying over the gravel and you're carrying over the filter media, and any decorations for that matter, basically it's almost like a 100% water change. But if you're carrying most of the stuff over, you should be okay. Especially with the filter media and the gravel. So the likelihood that you have an ammonia or nitrite spike afterwards is probably minimal. What I generally do when I'm switching fish over to a new tank, or I'm breaking down a tank and we're basically rescaping it, including the substrate, which is pretty much the same thing, we like to get a tote running. So you're saying a 20-gallon to a 32. So what I like to do is I like to get a tote running the day before. Put in water that's going to be at temperatures. For us in the fish room, it's easy because it just sits out, and because we heat the room. But make sure you get the water up to temperature, dechlorinate it, run an air stone. I generally will take the stuff out of the old tank, move the fish over to the tote, so they're just chilling out that way. I don't feel rushed. I'm not worried like, oh my gosh, they're just in a bucket. So they're hanging out. I mean, a bucket's fine. A 5-gallon bucket, if you don't have that many fish, that's fine too. Or you can just use the tank water, which they're not going to be there that long. So if you want to just siphon out tank water into the bucket with an air stone, totally cool. Take everything out, catch the fish in the bucket, in the tote they go. Drain all the water. Now, if you're going to use the same substrate, what I highly, highly recommend is you are gravel vacuuming the heck out of that substrate, because you're going to, It's just what happens. Even if you're an awesome fish keeper and you gravel vac every week like we do, when you start moving stuff around, you're going to have stuff floating around in the water. So to minimize having the new tank be kind of cloudy, I gravel vac the heck out of that substrate, and basically that's how I'm doing the water change, and I gravel vac it until I can't anymore. And then usually we use something like, what do you have, like those little paint cans? Like the flat edge paint pourer things, like from the dollar store?
From the Dollar Tree.
Yep. And then I just use that, scrape out the substrate, get the new tank set up, goes right in there. The one thing that you're going to want to consider is when it comes to your filter media and your gravel, you do want to make sure it doesn't get dry. And ideally, it would be nice if the media had some water flow going through it. It can last for probably the amount of time it's going to take you to switch it over, but the more oxygen that the microbes have access to, the more success you're going to have. So get the gravel in the new tank, maybe fill it up with dechlorinated water, then you start putting your stuff in there, get it aquascape the way you want it, slap the filter back on, fill it up, dechlorinate it, fish go back in. You should be in good shape. So that's how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What you got?
All right. Anna Astley. Just zooming right to Rick Astley. Loved him in high school. Okay. Howdy from Oklahoma. Hey, Oklahoma. Do you have a favorite oddball, weird fish, funny looking and or goofy personality?
Oddball. You got something?
Oh, gosh. The gobies.
Yep.
The grumpy. I call them the grumpy gobies. They're so funny.
That's the first one that came to my mind too, was the Rhinogobius. Rhinogobius henechuensis. We did a species profile on them, and they are a very silly fish. So they're oddball. They're not easy to find. So a lot of times people ask, like, well, where can I get these things? Good luck. And probably on Aquabid, the Rhinogobius are usually available. Maybe not that exact species, but they all kind of have the same personality, maybe just a little bit of a different color. But we had a group of probably at least 10 of them in a 10-gallon. They don't get very big. They're just a couple inches. And the males, they would just kind of swim over, just kind of scoot over towards one another, and never showed any true aggression other than they'd open their mouth, and they'd turn to the side, they'd kind of be like, look how big my mouth is, look how big my mouth is, look how tall I can get my dorsal fin, dorsal fin's taller. And then it's like they get like bored of it. They're like, oh, whew. That was pretty tough, wasn't it? Like, yeah, man, we really just showed off to one another. Yeah, man, that was really something. And then the other one's like, all right, well, I'm going to go back over to my rock. All right, well, I'll see you later. We can do that again maybe in a couple hours. That's it. That's what they would do. The female stayed a little bit smaller, but my gosh, when we would clean the tank, as much as they would show off about how tough the males were, you'd look over in that tank and there'd just be a pile of gobies. They'd be something. I mean, they'd like form like a triangle. A pile of goby triangles. Yeah. Yeah, they were like, they do like the little
cheerleaders.
Yep, little cheerleader pyramids. And then you get done with the water change, and now they're like, hey man, look how big my fin is. Look how big my mouth is. Remember when we were friends, but now we're not? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they're
I'm the toughest guy on this rock. Go back to your own rock. No, this is my rock now.
But clown loaches.
Clown loaches are goofy.
Super,
yeah, not necessarily oddball, but
entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
They're goofy.
A lot of the big South and Central American cichlids are very, very personal. I don't know about goofy necessarily, but like the Midas cichlids, Oscars. Oscars, for people who've never kept them before, they're often surprised by just how emotional they can be. I mean, my gosh, they get mad. You can tell when they're mad. You can tell when they're aggravated. Sometimes they'll pout and just lay down on the gravel on their side and be like, I'm just going to lay here. And you're like, oh my gosh, my Oscar's dead. And it's just, all right, let me throw some food in. Boom, right back up. They're eating. Like, hey, man, how's it going? What you doing? I was just laying down. What's the matter? Why are you scared? I thought I was going to die. I'm not dead. I'm fine. So, yeah, they're fun, too. Timothy, thank you so much for the sticker. Appreciate it very much.
Hiya.
Thank you.
So cute. I was just looking at it.
Felicia says, any news on new merch? You failed.
No, I didn't. They failed.
They? Oh, you're going to blame it on they, huh?
Well, we had back and forth. Like, all right, change this. And you know what? I haven't heard from them in over a week. So I think I may have exceeded. So I think we're going to have to go to a plan B with the design, which I have something in mind. But so it'll probably be, I don't know if we debut it for Dallas and then just carry it over to the store. Yeah. But yeah, we're very particular on this specific. I mean, we're very particular on any design. And it just has to be done, unfortunately, this way. It has to be done via email. So it's,
So what you're saying is you annoyed them to the point where they no longer wanted to deal with us.
That's right.
That's great.
But it's really hard to describe as opposed to getting on the phone and saying, all right, and talking it out. It's send an email, get a response.
So they don't do phone calls?
No.
Oh, well, forget that. We'll figure it out. But no new merch just yet.
Not
but
yet.
It will, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have some stuff coming up. Like I said, the one thing that we've been working on, I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, the one thing that we've been working on is establishing suppliers so that we can offer a bigger selection at the swaps and auctions. But like I said, we don't ship fish, but there are some things that I would like to bring to the swaps and auctions that are extremely difficult to breed. So I will let other people breed them, and then we will make them available after we've properly quarantined them. So that's sucked up a lot of our time, and we're hoping to have that ready for the September swap at the GCCA. Steve says, I have some stir-by cories in quarantine with white fuzz on them, treating with Pimifix? I don't know if I've ever heard of that. Any more suggestions? What is that? The Maricin or the Furan? Go to Fritz Aquatics, look at their antifungals, because white fuzz to me says most likely fungus. If it's a fungus, and again, it's hard to say from a description without seeing it and knowing what's going on. Sometimes the fungi don't do well at warmer temperatures. So if the fish got cold and the tank's on the cooler side, like 70 to 74, you start turning up those temps a little bit to 78 or so, and sometimes if it's a fungus, they don't do as well. All right, let's see here. Hold on. Ben DeGroot says, good morning from China.
Ooh,
that's cool.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Cool.
What fish has got you most interested or excited recently? That's a good question.
Green neons.
I would say the bucket list fish that we did a video at the beginning, they're like, hey, fish I really, really want. And I didn't think that we were going to get most of these fish throughout the year. They were just fish I wanted. So there's a few right now in the fish room that I really like, besides the standard ones that are always, around. One are my albino hecali. I've wanted those fish ever since I saw them. The first male I saw a few years ago, it was just absolutely stunning. We have a group of them right now in a 75, which you will probably see next week. But those fish have me really excited because they're showing amazing color. And even at like 3 inches, they're already getting the nice long trailers on their dorsal fins. So I'm really excited to see what happens there. The other fish that's got me really excited right now is the Argentea. They go by, there's 2 different genera that they go by, either Mascahiros or Vieja. But Argentea, it's a silver fish. It's got kind of like a black face. And right now they're still relatively small at maybe 4 to 5 inches. And I've got 2 of them at a 125. Most likely I'm going to have to separate them. But when they get full grown, that 12-inch size fish, it's like basically a swimming gem, like a little swimming diamond. Well, big swimming diamond. It's raining outside.
It's raining again.
Yep. And then the other one is, let's see, there was a third one. What was the third one? I had it in my brain. Yeah, it's so exciting I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, those are the ones that are
cool. I'm
really excited about. Let's see here. Oink Master Supreme Forever, thank you so much for the super chat. Fairy Cichlid or Maltese for first shell dweller? Fairy Cichlid, are we talking about... Hold on, because usually when I see Fairy Cichlid, I'm thinking Brochardi, which isn't a shell dweller. Let me just make sure I'm not... Yeah, that's a Brochardi. So the Brochardi aren't shell dwellers, and they are... Hold on, I'm reading. So the Brochardi, they breed very, very aggressively. And usually when you put the Brochardi in the tank, you're going to have a very difficult time putting anything else in the tank. The other issue with the Brochardi, depending on where you live, is it can be very difficult to move fry. With the shell dwellers, the Maltese, they stay smaller. They are easier to move the fry. So when you get to that point where I don't know what size tank you have, but when you start to get to that point where the tank is getting saturated full of fish, you're like, oh man, I need to start doing something with these juveniles. You're most likely going to have an easier time moving shell dwellers to a local fish store or selling them locally. I do think the shell dwellers, the multis, have a better personality, where the Burchardi are more mid-water. They can be a little bit more aggressive. The males, once you get to a point where you've got males that no longer have a territory, sometimes they'll stop breeding, which may or not be good, but they also can be a little rough on one another. So I lean towards the shell dwellers, but the Burchardi are great. If you're looking at Burchardi, the other thing to consider would be the daffodil Burchardi. Those are basically Burchardi-like, but they get more color. Really cool fish. Let's see here.
Noelle said that my redheaded youngest teen dressed up as Rick Astley recently. He was a dead ringer. That's awesome.
Nice.
That must have been a sight.
Very cool.
That's cool.
All right. Aquanut 26. She did such a good job of aquascaping those tanks that it looks like one big tank with dividers.
That was kind of the inspiration.
Yeah.
I was actually going to do it very like one exact scape, and I was going to actually cut the pieces so it was, but it wouldn't have made for very good video because we decided we were going to do it 4 different videos, so that would not have been very fun seeing like quarter scapes.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah. Here's one part.
Just picture
next
larger.
Part there's going to be a continuation. Yeah, I like it because I think you did a good job of balancing the continuum, but also making them 4 separate
hangouts
things. Yeah,
4 different hangouts.
Tyler asks, 6-foot tank, glass or acrylic? That's a video I still need to do, and the problem is I don't have an acrylic tank to really do a good comparison. So acrylic is a lot lighter than glass, especially with a 6-foot tank. So the tank itself is going to be easier to move around. So if you're someone who's like, okay, I've got to move this thing, maybe, you know, even if you drain it and then have to move it somewhere, it's just easier to do. Acrylic sometimes will scratch a little bit easier, less forgiving that way. Although if you do scratch acrylic, it can be easier to fix that situation than glass. If you scratch glass, usually, for the most part, it's like, all right, you're going to live with the scratches. Acrylic can potentially be fixed. Acrylic's going to be a lot more expensive, especially a 6-foot tank. So there's that issue. Leak-wise, I would say, so I don't have, I've got lots of friends who have acrylic tanks, but I don't have personal experience with a bunch of different types of acrylic tanks. I've only had small ones. I don't know. If you got a quality tank, I'm not really sure there's much of a difference if they're quality tanks. I personally, because the higher end glass right now is really good. Acrylic is, initially when they're brand new, I think the acrylic has probably got a little bit of a clearer view. But I just go with glass for us. I don't want to spend the extra money on acrylic. And plus I know the way we clean tanks, it'll get all scratched up and then I've got to deal with that. So good question. Got anything?
Shh. Fish Nerds is here. Stop
Fish
talking about
Nerds here. All right. Carlos, welcome.
Hey, Carlos.
It's going to stink that you're not coming to Aquachella because
I know.
Usually that's tradition.
I know.
It's tradition, man.
For the Chicago one.
Matthew does stuff. Wait, hold on. I read it and now there we go. The last couple storms were so strong. At least in my area, we had wind speeds 70 miles an hour, and our trampoline almost flew away. So 2 funny stories. Last night we went to, they're called the Schaumburg Boomers. They're basically they're part of the Frontier League. It's kind of like a low minor league team, but we love going there. It's fun. It's cheap. And we got there. And before the game even started, they put the tarp on.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not even raining. We could do this, man. Let's get this game started. And then like a half hour later, the rain came down. I actually posted on Instagram, and it does. Instagram, the one I posted, doesn't do a good job of showing just how strong
because we were like
the wind was and how much it was raining. Like we're like, man, maybe we should have just left and gone home because this place is about to blow over. So, and then what's crazy is we sat there and waited for the rain to stop until about 8. And I'm looking at the outfield, the warning track. I'm like, there's no way they're playing this game. Let's go.
Oh, there were puddles and.
We wake up this morning to a Facebook post. Yeah, they started at 9:10 and they played. I'm like, man, that would have been cool to see a game and like stay there till midnight and watch the game. We probably would have been the only people there.
Probably.
It would have been fun.
I wonder how many people stuck it out.
And our umbrella in the back, that was the weirdest thing ever.
It was really weird.
The umbrella, apparently, like the umbrella.
The table umbrella.
It went up, came right back down, and upside down right next to the table.
Didn't knock anything over. Nothing by the pond, because it's right by the pond.
Weirdest thing ever.
Nothing on the table, by the table. I don't know. I think it was a couple of kids being goofy.
Might have been. But at least they were
Or it was just a very perfect
updraft.
tiny storm.
Yeah. So Tyler, thank you so much for the super chat. Good luck. Good tank size for Leptosoma with multis. Tall and long. So I think the best bet that you have for that combination, especially if you want to see fry from the multis, is at least a 55 gallon. So that's going to give you the 4-foot length that I think the Leptosoma will do really well. And it's also a 55 gallon. It's got that, what is it, the 21, 23 inch height or so. So there's a little bit of separation. The Leptosoma will be like mid to upper water. The multis can have the bottom. You go bigger than that, even better. I have Leptosoma in with brevis and a 40 breeder. I've never been in love with that whole setup because I would prefer, like I said, that the Cyprichromis to have at least 4 feet. The 40 breeder's only 3, and it's not tall enough to adequately give the brevis the space they need to breed because we get almost no brevis fry survival there. I think the sips eat the baby brevis, but the sips spit out fry that are too large for the shell dwellers to eat because they're pretty good size. So yeah, that'll be a cool tank. Elizabeth, last question. Golden Nugget Pleco and a Bull Mastiff in a 75 gallon. What is a Bull Mastiff? Am I reading that right? Golden Nugget Pleco and a Bull Mastiff in a 75 gallon. What is the best tank mates?
Well,
I'm not going to lie, Elizabeth. I'm slightly confused because a Bull Mastiff probably isn't the best tank mate for anybody.
I don't think you're going to get good tank mates for both of them.
Yeah. You might want
to.
Yeah, you might want to pick a different one. Amanda, my gold gourami has it out for the thermometer in the tank lately. Ever have a fish take on tank equipment? Lots of other fish for her to chase and a ton of plants. You know what?
Wow.
Don't ask questions. Clearly your gold gourami has got a few screws loosed in his little gold gourami brain. Maybe he had a dream about the thermometer and he woke up and was like, oh man, that thermometer is going to get me. Why is that little orange light staring at me? Or red light. And it just goes all out crazy. Just be happy that it's the thermometer. He's not going to damage it. And it's not the other fish. In fact, you should put like 5 thermometers in there. Right? Or heaters or whatever you got going on in there. And just let him have his fun. Chasing the stuff that can't get fin nipped. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. That's what it is. What you got?
Okay. Jonah says, where can I buy my first live plant for my aquarium and how much do they cost? Well, if you're considering a live plant, I say go for it. If you go to a big box store like Petco, PetSmart, you can get tube plants and they're like $5.99, something like that. And even I think regularly, I can't say because I'm usually at Petco for plants more frequently than PetSmart, but they frequently have a sale, buy 2 get 1 free. So that's a good deal too for 2 plants. And then they also have the little gel cultures, but usually like $6 to $10. You can get a nice little plant, and then it kind of goes online too, but then online you'll be paying for shipping.
Yeah, now online, the advantage there is like Flip Aquatics as a channel sponsor. The nice thing there is you get more plant for your money. So,
and they're usually
if you're buying crypts
larger.
So like if you're buying crypts, which is a good beginner plant, especially if you want to plant something in the substrate,
Crypt
usually
parva.
you get a little tiny thing at PetSmart where if you go to someone like Flip Aquatics, you're going to get a big bunch of it. So, it'll be fun. That'll be a good time. Lisa, thank you so much for the super chat. New to the hobby, and you guys have been instrumental.
Yay.
Thank you guys are great.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Glad you're here. All right, let's see. We'll take a few more. It's getting late, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff still yet to do here, right? With the prepping of the
we're getting
fish
guests
room
tomorrow.
Yeah, we're getting these people you may know of. Like I said, if you're like, man, I need some more live stream action here, go to KG Tropicals tomorrow. Check out the live stream. We'll be basically right here with 2 additional people, but on their channel. It's their live stream. It's not ours. We're just going to be...
Yeah, we'll hang out.
We're going to be guests. It's going to be fun. So let's see. Amanda, LOL. It's a bit funny to be working at home in silence and hear clink on the thermometer being bobbed against the glass. Yeah. Maybe he just thinks it's a ghost, right? It's the ghost light. Right, the ghost thermometer, like, what's that little red thing that keeps going up? You never know what the fish are thinking. They're just crazy. Oink Master Supreme Forever, thank you again for the super chat. What's safe plastic in tank like Joanna's farm? What's safe plastic in tank like Joanna's farm?
What kind of plastic is safe in the tank? Do I have any plastic in there?
I don't think so.
I do put, because like polymer clay, once you bake it, that becomes plastic and it is totally aquarium safe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of plastic decorations or resin that they use. I'm trying to think. What do I?
So generally speaking, when it comes to plastic in a tank, if it's not for an aquarium, I generally stay away from it. Even to a certain extent, a lot of the stuff that's made for lizards. I don't. The plants are generally going to be okay, but I'm even a little hesitant to put that stuff in. So unless it's an aquarium decoration, I don't chance it. Just because you spent money on your fish, you've got this set up, and the last thing I want is, I know a lot of people will put like plastic toys and stuff in their tank because they want a certain look. Like, hey, this is my
Legos.
Yeah, my Lego tank, or this is my G.I. Joe tank or something. And if you coat it with all kinds of the stuff.
Silicone?
Yes, thank you. Maybe, but I just, why take the chance? If it's not for an aquarium, I wouldn't mess with it. Keith, thank you so much for the super chat. When, if ever, will mossballs come back? Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. Have they been back? You go to the pet stores more than I do. So, yeah, that was a big issue. So for those of you who aren't aware, the mossballs months ago, they started being shipped. There was a place in Russia, I believe, that was shipping them out, but they were infested with zebra mussels. And we did a video about that as soon as I heard about it. And there were people who were getting these things in their tanks, and it's a very invasive thing. We have them in the Chicagoland area and some of the local ponds and stuff, and they can be bad news, so they pulled them all off the market. Luckily, the ones that we got, we didn't have any issues. So, but yeah,
I have quite a number of them.
It can be bad.
Do you see Fishner wants to know, question about baseball. What is the best hot dog condiment?
Well, if it's a baseball hot dog, I just go with mustard, man. That's it. Nobody for Chicago is going to do ketchup. So I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Like there's another minor league baseball team by us. They're actually called the Chicago Dogs. Great, fun little stadium.
Yeah, great merch too.
Yeah, and they make fun of like all the people. Yeah. They've got this guy who's like the ketchup squeeze bottle as one of their like mascots.
Yeah.
And the mustard guy always beats up the ketchup guy. So around here, and I'm not saying you can't put ketchup on your hot dog. All I'm saying is don't do it around here and in these parts. And you basically ruin that really good piece of meat. I mean, hot dogs, let's face it, when it comes to meaty things, I don't know if a higher quality meat can be had than a hot dog. So probably not, but yeah, mustard. That's it. Now around here you can do mustard, you can do the relish stuff,
Chicago
tomatoes,
style, and then peppers, sport peppers.
Yeah, that's all
There's
good.
A way you can
but in terms of saucy stuff, it's just mustard. Yeah, that's just the way it has to be. All right, let's see here. Drew says, before you go, I have to say the 50-gallon multi low boy is my favorite tank on all of YouTube. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I enjoy that tank quite a bit. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Aquanut says, any pro tips for silver dollars? So silver dollars, keep them in a group. Keep them in a big tank because they get larger. I think one of the things that people overlook when they keep silver dollars is they see them at the store and they're about a 50-cent piece size or so, and they look cute. They got the big eye and they're all goofy and they're still figuring out how to swim. They're like little puppies. And some people don't necessarily realize that they're going to be large. Like, I've seen silver dollars like larger than my hand, and they're massive fish. So full grown, a lot of times like a 6-foot tank long term is something to consider. A group of them, certainly they're skittish. So that's the other thing. You don't want to be moving around very quickly in front of the tank or tapping the glass or putting them in an area where there's going to be a lot of traffic. Just because, even when you turn the lights on, it's one of those things where when you flick on the lights, those are fish that are most likely to start darting across the tank. Like, oh my gosh, lights just came on. What am I doing? And then when one of them freaks out, they all freak out. So unless they're used to it. Now, that's not always the case, but I'm just saying of all the fish I've kept, tinfoil barbs, ballast sharks, silver dollars tend to be the most skittish and reactive. they love green stuff. So I would feed them hornwort. I would feed them duckweed. I would feed them plants. What I think a lot of people don't realize is they will eat snails. They love, ours would eat snails more than even like clown loaches and stuff.
Yeah.
Back in the day when we had a bunch of ram's horn snails and a bunch of pond snails, I would take handfuls and throw them in the 150. And the silver dollars were always the first ones down there to go grab them. And they would just, oh my gosh, they would eat those snails like they were going out of style. They loved it. They absolutely loved it. So those are some of the tips that I have for silver dollars, and I love them and I miss them. And at some point, when I have space, we'll get some red hook silver dollars because they're awesome.
Cool.
Yep. All right, everybody. I think we are going to call it a night because it's getting a little bit late here. I did want to say thank you to our moderators and Mary Page for, first of all, it's great having you back. I'm so glad you're here. I know your summer's been busy, so hopefully we'll see you popping in more often. Hope to see some of you at Aquachella. Stop by the KG Tropicals live stream tomorrow night. I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun. And then we'll be back next Wednesday. We'll have probably some post Aquachella news for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll hang out and I hope you guys have a great week. And we will see you next week or hopefully tomorrow night or maybe at Aquachella.
Yeah.
We'll see you.